Oh boy, starting off with a sports game. How fun. The game is called 10-Yard Fight, and basically it's football. American football. And yeah, that's what this game is. Except, unlike the real sport, you're less likely to get a concussion from it. That doesn't mean your chances are zero, though. Also, unlike future football games, there aren't any charts or stats you really have to worry about. This is a pretty simplified version of the sport. Which I guess could make this a good starting point for people who want to get into football games, but other than that, if you're already into these, then you're probably already playing the latest Madden. There are some other problems with this game, but honestly, they're just personal nitpicks. Like, I think the game is a tad too slow for my liking, like when you're running down the field. Like, I know that football fields are massive, but still. And also, this game has 5 different difficulties represented by different levels of football, and honestly I think that the AI doesn't get too much harder in the higher ones. I mean, I did get my ass beat by the high school difficulty, but that's just because I wasn't used to the controls and mechanics, so shut up! Once I was in the Super Bowl difficulty, I really didn't have much trouble. Maybe that means I'm ready to be put on an actual team. Put me on, coach!
Who gets by one?
But don't get me wrong, I actually did have some fun with this game, mainly with some of the charm of it, like the dive is kinda ridiculous. And also, what's with this strut one of the players does before you throw the ball? This isn't a runway, my guy. And finally, there's this little ditty that plays when you're running. Seriously, it makes me want to do a little dance. But other than that, there really isn't much variety to this, so I got bored within an hour, and you probably will as well, so I'm just gonna give it a C rank and suggest you play something more modern, like Madden 25, or Madden 25. I don't know if you know, but the first rule of Balloon Fight Club is that you don't talk about Balloon Fight Club. So let's not. Nah, I'm joking with ya. Let's get started with the first mode. So with this game, you have 2 balloons on your head, and there are these guys, what are these? And you just have to pop the balloons. Once you do, they'll parachute to the ground and you just have to hit them again to defeat them. Be quick about it though before they fill another balloon. And it can also pop your balloons too. And if they're both popped, you immediately lose a life because I guess you forgot your parachute at home. You also have to make sure that you don't fall into the water, because going too deep will also cost you a life. And there's also a giant fish that'll eat anything that gets close, including you. And finally, there's fucking lightning you have to contend with. You really couldn't have chosen a better time and place for a balloon fight? Well, anyway, the ultimate goal of this mode is to defeat every enemy in each round, with there being a bonus game every 3 rounds that has you bursting as many bubbles to come out of these chimneys as possible. And you keep going as more enemies and platforms appear for each round, at least until you lose your 3 lives. That's all with the first mode. The second mode is the same, but it's 2 players, with you and a buddy playing together. Fortunately, you can't burst each other's balloons. Or, unfortunately, if you want to f*** with each other. And then there's the final mode, which is basically an endurance test, where the screen will auto-scroll and you have to pop as many balloons as possible while avoiding these lightning balls. Touch one and you'll immediately die, losing your only life. And yeah, that's everything with this game. What's that? The controls? Oh, right, the controls! How could I forget? They're the most unique thing about this game. Well, other than the whole concept behind this game, but anyways, yes, the controls. Well, when you're walking on the ground, it controls like you expect, but when you're flying around, it's, well, quite literally floaty. You see your character and how he flaps his arms? Well, that's something you actually have to do by pressing the A button, and the faster you mash the A button, the faster you rise.
But I'm not done yet!
In order to even move left or right, you have to, guess what, hold the direction while mashing the A button to build momentum. And if you want to fly in the opposite direction you're already flying in, well, that'll take you a second because you have set momentum, but you can turn faster if you mash the A button. So what I'm saying is, you have to mash a lot. A lot. And you know what that means? Repetitive strain injuries. And also, a what now? Wait, so you don't have to mash? You can just hold the B button to fly around? Oh, thank dog, my thumb is saved! But don't get me wrong, this doesn't negate the floating momentum, just makes playing this game much more bearable. And a bit easier, actually. It just makes me wonder why Nintendo even has mashing as an option in the first place. Maybe it's for masochists? But anyway, you don't have to be a masochist to enjoy this game. You can certainly get some quick enjoyment out of this, but like a lot of these early NES games, there isn't too much substance here, and the controls are pretty unique, for better or for worse, so it's just getting a C rank. Alright, first up is
Baseball!
Alright, just gotta pick my team, and I think I'm gonna go with Team R, cause R is a nice letter. Many great words start with R, like rash. Alright, I think I'm batting first. I'm just gonna assume either the A or B button swings my bat, and I'll just see what happens. Great start. Okay, second attempt. There we go. Let's hit it out of the ballpark. If I somehow lose this game, I'm gonna be very upset. Well, shit, didn't get a single point. Oh well, I'm not gonna let the D's get a single point. D's no. Okay, looks like the little men on the field move automatically, but they won't throw the ball automatically. You have to do that yourself by pressing one of the face buttons. Also, what's the point of the game reading out of speed every time the batter hits the ball? It says it's going 71 miles per hour, but then it only flies like 2 feet. Unless it's the pitcher's throwing speed? Well, I still don't see much of a point in it. Oh yeah, baby! Home run! Yeah, that's right, pixelated crowd. Give me your AOL cheers. Alright, switching teams again. I'm not letting you guys get any more points. Well, come on guys, what are you doing? Get the ball, come on! Again, you can't control these guys, so you're just left in the hands of the baseball gods. Okay, I think the D's are suddenly taking pity on me because they're just not hitting the ball at all. It's different from the rest of the match where they show no mercy whatsoever. Ah, crap. Wait, what are you doing? You're out! Oh, are you okay? Do we need to get in amber lamps?
Nice.
But yeah, the D's kicked my ass for the rest of the game. Look at the final score! I was absolutely slaughtered! And look, I had my fun with this game, trying to figure it out and all, but this is all you can do in this game. You can only do individual matches against a computer or another player, and they all last roughly 20 minutes. I'm not sure why you'd want to play this when there are more modern options with more replayability. So because of that, I think I'm gonna give it a C. Pretty middle of the road, honestly. Alright, next up is Clu Clu Land. Wait, what's a Clu Clu? Is it this thing? Is this a Clu Clu? Actually no, that's a balloon fish called Bubbles apparently, and also Puggy Factoid! The original Japanese name can be translated as Clu Clu Land, and Clu Clu is a Japanese onomatopoeia that refers to something going around and around. Seriously, make a noise with your mouth with something spinning round and round. Neat, huh? And it does make sense going into the game. Basically, at the start of each level, you're placed down on a grid, and you just have to pick a direction and Bubbles just races off. She ain't stopping for anybody, not even the walls. And you see these dots here? These are apparently poles that Bubbles can grab onto. Once you're right next to one, just push the D-pad in the direction of said pole and she'll keep spinning right round, baby, right round, till you let go of the D-pad. The ultimate goal is to uncover all the gold ingots on each map by crossing over them. And the best part about that is that on each map, the ingots form a picture. There's only 5 levels, but each one can form one of 4 pictures, meaning there's 20 different pictures. You could get a ribbon, a butterfly, a mouse, or even a house made of gold. Every Minecraft player's dream next to being around middle school. It won't be that easy though, cause on top of wrapping your head around the controls, they are kinda wonky your first time playing. You got these sea urchins to deal with, but you can shoot them with a shockwave? Okay, and squish them into a wall to temporarily take them down. There's also invisible rubber walls that only appear once you bump into them, and literal black holes! I thought these were supposed to be whirlpools cause, you know, bubblefish, sea urchins were clearly underwater. It makes sense. But nope, apparently those are actual black holes. Someone call King Neptune! There's also a time limit you have to deal with Bubbles losing a life once it runs out, and she also gets fast start to the first level. Seriously, she's really zooming. I never made past stage 4 for footage, but you do end up randomly going through all the pictures one at a time, and every 5 stages you get a bonus level where you have to flip over as many ingots as you can in a short time limit. And once you finish every picture, you start over from the beginning, but it's harder. The same old song and dance. And the added difficulty this time is that you can flip the ingots back over. And good dog, thinking about how you're supposed to flip them all over without leaving any flips back over hurts my little puggy brain. And that's Clu Clu Land. And honestly, I kinda love it. I'd even say it's a hidden gem on the NES. It's addicting as all hell figuring out the picture and maneuvering around the level. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it an A rank. Man, if this game was actually successful, we could have had sequels, Bubbles and Smash, all of that. Nintendo really screwed this over by giving it this box art. Alright, next up is Donkey Kong, the game that pulled Nintendo out of the gutter, all thanks to a big monkey. It also has a lot of firsts as well. It's the debut of, like, the most recognizable video game character ever made. It was the pioneer of the platformer genre, and it was one of the earliest video games to insinuate that women need a man to save them. It's also one of the earliest video games to convey a plot through cutscenes. Although this isn't shown in the console version, you just pick a game mode and you're plonked right into the first level. But basically, Big Monkey steals Mario's girl Pauline, and now he has to get her back. And yes, the NES version refers to him as Mario. He is named as such in the manual, and his life counter is represented by an M. So yeah, he's a Mario. It's just in the original arcade version that he's referred to as Jumpman. I accidentally called him Jimpman in the script. I'm keeping that in. Anyway, the game is pretty simple in the modern age. You just get to the top of each of the 3 stages, walking up steel beams, climbing up ladders, grabbing Pauline's stuff along the way. There's things you need to avoid, like barrels thrown by Big Monkey, living fireballs? The ones on stage 3 look like peeps on fire. And also gravity. Yes, this was before it was common knowledge that platformers shouldn't have fall damage. Even a 6-foot drop will kill Mario, making him more fragile than gamers when a woman is moderately dressed. Along the way, you can grab the only power-up in the whole game and one of the most OP items in Smash Bros, the hammer. It'll destroy anything in its path, but makes you unable to jump or climb ladders, so when you grab it, you just kinda have to wait for it to finish. There we go. So, when you finish stage 3, Big Monkey fall down, Mario and Pauline are finally reunited, and it's all very cute. But then it loops you back to the beginning. Yeah, it's a port of an arcade game, alright. You're expected to keep replaying the same stages over and over again, with each loop increasing the difficulty level one at a time. Which in this game involves Big Monkey throwing more shit at you and more enemies spawning in the hopes of trying to get a high score. I should probably go back to the title screen for a moment and explain the game mode since I'm talking about difficulty. There's 2 games. Game A and Game B. Game A starts you at what I'll call Difficulty 1, because it's the easiest the game gets, and Game B starts you at Difficulty 2. There's also a 2-player mode for both games, which involves one player playing until they die, and then switches to letting the other player play until they die, and so on until you both lose all your lives. It's basically a competition to see who gets the highest score, which I don't see much of a point in when you could just take turns seeing who gets a higher score in the single-player modes. But anyway, that's Big Monkey the game. I can see why it was such a big hit back in the day, because even though I wasn't able to get past Difficulty 3, I still wanted to keep going and see just how far it could go. But there isn't much to see beyond what you play through on the first loop, and it is super basic. It is one of the first platformers after all, so I think I'm gonna give this game a B. Seems fair to me. Looks like Big Monkey is back in his 3rd official game, and already they made more changes to the formula. Firstly, Big Monkey is back to being the villain. Secondly, the game's some sort of shooter now instead of a platformer. And thirdly, neither Mario nor Little Monkey are anywhere to be seen. Instead, in the protagonist role, we got everyone's favorite character from the Game & Watch game Greenhouse. It's Stanley the Bugman! Wait, this game was really divisive and ended up being Stanley's last major appearance outside of cameos? Aww. Yeah, not only that, but this was also the last major Donkey Kong game until Donkey Kong Country a whole decade later. Why would Nintendo end up abandoning him for so long? Well, let's find out. The game involves Big Monkey hanging off of these vines, and Stanley just needs to push him to the top of the screen by spraying pesticide up his ass. If you don't do this, Big Monkey will fall down and you'll lose a life. But of course winning's not gonna be easy, cause Big Monkey routed some beehives at the start of the level, and they're so angry that apparently they want to steal Stanley's plants for for some reason, so you gotta spray those guys too. You can also beat a stage by spraying enough of these guys. There's also these snakes that come down and slither back and forth on platforms. The only effect the pesticide has on these guys is stunning them for a few seconds, which can be annoying when they're right under Big Monkey. Dog damn it, move! And actually, no, you don't need to spray the bees in the first 2 stages. Not only because they're good for the environment and you shouldn't mistreat them like that, but because you can mostly just ignore them and focus entirely on spraying Big Monkey. Look! Seriously, check out Stanley, even he's surprised. And once you beat level 2, you loop back to begin- Wait, hold on, I gotta read that again. You loop back after just stage 2? Jeez! Of course, more bees will consistently spawn to make things harder, as well as a new, bigger bee that not only has to be hit twice, but on the second hit, it bursts out spikes that you need to avoid. They do so in the same way every time, but that won't matter if you kill them while they're right up in your face! And after the first level, the second loop, there's apparently a new stage that wasn't there the first time for whatever reason. And the only difference is that there's a gap in the second row and more snakes spawn. Finally, there's the other modes. With Game B, though, I honestly didn't notice a difference in difficulty. I think the only thing that's different is that Big Monkey requires more asteroids to defeat, and with the 2-player offering, it's the same old take turns approach. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this game sucks. It just straight up sucks. It's pretty frustrating, and all the music and sound effects are so annoying. Shut up! Also, I hope you like repetitive strain injuries, because this game will probably give you one, so I'm just gonna give this game the D rank and move on. I can see why Nintendo kept you locked up for a decade.
Okay.
Apparently, Big Monkey had a spawn because he's the namesake and protagonist of the next game we're playing, Donkey Kong Jr., or as I like to call him, Little Monkey. I forgot to mention this, but in the last game, Mario was officially designated as a carpenter, and at some point in between games, he made a career change to an animal tamer and captured Big Monkey. And instead of calling the policeman or PETA to deal with him, Little Monkey decides to go rescue his dad himself. But Mario won't let that happen. He's got several different animals to stop Little Monkey, like Chompy Boys, and whatever these things are. That one's having a fit. Okay, stage 1, let's go! Are you okay, Little Monkey? You look way too happy to see me. So here's the dealio. Just like Mario in the last game, Little Monkey can move left and right and jump straight up, to the left, and to the right. I also forgot to mention this for last game, but you can't change your direction in midair. Once you jump, you're as committed to it as a man is to his waifu. One difference from the last game is a change to the climbing mechanics, as Little Monkey can climb up chains, ropes, and vines. He's pretty slow just climbing up one of these, but you're able to reach over to another one and use them both to climb up faster. But you can't jump off of these because otherwise... Yeah, fall damage is back, and it can be bullshit sometimes. Like on stage 2, there's a spring that Little Monkey can jump off of, and when he does and lands on the ground, he doesn't take fall damage and moves on along. But I was trying to use the spring to get onto this little floating platform here, and sometimes I'll just barely clip it and... Yeah, that. Anyway, there are 4 stages in this game. There were 4 in the arcade version of the first game as well, but one of them got cut out. Here they managed to fit them all in, which is nice. The first 3 just require you to get to the top where Mario and Big Monkey are, while the final stage sees you sliding what I assume are keys into some keyholes in order to finally free your dad. That is, until the game loops again. That's right, once again Nintendo wants you to repeat the same levels over and over again, with each loop getting harder and adding more enemies. I don't think I really need to go into detail about how the difficulty and game modes work in this game, cause it's the same as the last one. I don't think I like this one as much as the original Donkey Kong. At least in that one, the simplicity helps it and makes it pretty replayable, but with this one I'm not as much of a fan of the controls and level design, and it can lead to... Hey kids, do you like math?
No.
Well, too bad, cause Donkey Kong's gonna teach you in Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Oh, son, thank you for saving me from that dastardly human.
No problem, Dad. I think as a reward, you shouldn't make me and my twin brother that we never talk about do constant math problems for today.
Oh. You think you can get out of math that easily? Yeah, I'm guessing this was Nintendo's first attempt at what they call edutainment games, and it didn't go over very well. The press hated this game for some reason, but you know, I think I could give it a fair shot. You know those times that math ends up trending on Twitter or something? Especially the ones where they just replace the numbers with pictures? Well, I actually kind of like doing those, so maybe this could be kind of fun. Okay, yeah, I think I get it. I'm basically competing against a pink clone of Little Monkey to do math and get to the number big monkeys holding up first. Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this, and the other monkey isn't moving. Is this supposed to be a two-player game? Well, this won't work as intended, cause not only do I not have any friends, even if I did have any, I don't think any of them would like to play competitive math with me. I will give Nintendo credit though, they finally did a multiplayer mode where both players are on screen at once. But why did it have to be with a math game? But yeah, like I said before, this mode is just a race to reach the number big monkeys holding up first. The player that reaches the number first gets a point, and Big Monkey chooses a new number. Whoever gets 5 points first wins. And that only takes about 3 minutes to do, after which everyone just stares at you in silence for a few seconds before you boot back to the title screen. Fun. Alright, guess I'll see what Calculate B has to offer. Negative 245? Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, we start at negative 150, but still. And it would have taken forever just to get there. I kept accidentally overshooting it, and I had to divide it down to a higher number to get it right, which I couldn't wrap my head around, but then the numbers I wanted wouldn't show up. Yeah, the numbers on the chains are kinda random, and when I was kinda close to the target, but too close that multiplying or dividing would overshoot again, I would have needed to add or subtract to get there. And keep in mind, the game only gives you single digits to work with. I just gave up eventually and went to the final mode, which is the actual single player mode. Basically, you choose what format you want to go with, like adding double digit numbers, or subtracting 6-digit numbers, no thank you. And the game will give you 10 different equations to do. Each digit of the answer has a chain underneath it, and you just have to jump onto the chain and climb up and down it to change the digit from 0 to 9. Once you're confident in your answer, you'll go to the next chain on your left to input the next digit. You can't go back and change your answer though, so be careful. Once you put a number in all the digits, Little Monkey will fall off the chains, and how he lands will tell you how you did. If you're correct, he flushes his guns, Big Monkey gives you points, and the boy will lay an egg next to the numbered equation you completed. And if you're wrong, you'll die. But not really. The game will give you a chance to change your answer. But even if you do get it right after that, you won't get any points. Also, if you seriously can't figure out what the answer is, you can just push this key into the keyhole and not get any points. Remember, this is the 80s. Participation trophies didn't exist yet. So yeah, that's Little Monkey Math. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kinda had a good time with it? I mean, don't get me wrong, Calculate B can suck my neutered dick, and I wish Little Monkey walked faster in the single player mode. But hey, I do enjoy some brain teasers from time to time, even if I'm not good at puzzle games. So, unpopular opinion, this game's alright. B-rank. Now we got Duck Hunt, our first light gun game, and this is where we hit our first big snag with this series. See, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not playing these games on official hardware. As such, I can't use the NES Zapper, nor the Super Scope once I get to the SNES. And I don't know about you, but I currently can't afford an NES, NES Zapper, SNES, Super Scope, all the light gun games Nintendo's published, a CRT TV to play them on cause the light guns only work on those, extra aux cables, an aux to HDMI converter, an HDMI to aux converter, an HDMI cable, and a capture card. And I know that I could just use my mouse to control all of these games, but I really don't think that's giving them a fair chance. So you know what I did? I bought this. This is the Sinden Light Gun, which claims to be the first true LCD compatible light gun. Now, this wasn't cheap either, but it's better than the alternative, and if it works, I'll be golden. If it doesn't, I'm gonna need a loan. Please work, please work, please work! Holy crap, it works! Awesome! Now I can properly simulate killing fowl! And yeah, that's basically all you do in this game. You hunt ducks. The game consists of rounds, and each round gives you 10 ducks to shoot with your gun. On the main menu, you can choose between 1 duck showing up at a time, or 2 at a time, and you just have to aim and shoot. But how can such an old game tell that you're hitting your targets? Is it magic? Well, no, but it's just as cool, and pretty creative. Basically, inside the barrel of the NES Zapper is an optical sensor that detects light. That's why it's called a light gun. In the split second that the trigger is pulled, the screen will go completely black for 1 frame, and in the next frame, while the screen is still go black, a white square will appear where the target was, and this is what the sensor is looking for. If it sees the white box, it'll register as a hit. If it doesn't, it's a miss. At least that's how I understand it. If you want a more thorough explanation, the Slow-Mo guys actually uploaded a video about this just a few months ago. Go check it out, I'll link it in the description. With each duck, or pair of ducks, you only have 3 rounds. And if you miss all 3 or take too long, they'll get away, and your hunting dog will laugh at you. Why are you doing that? I'm your owner. We're supposed to be friends. Another piece of added difficulty is that the ducks get faster with every round, and it can get hard pretty quickly. Like, here's a duck on round 1, and here's one on round 12, like holy shit. Unfortunately, that does mean that they're super slow in the early rounds, and honestly, it's pretty boring. Well, maybe I just need to change the pace. Let's go after some clay pigeons. Hold on a second. Those aren't pigeons. Seriously, I'm not the only one who wonders why they're called that, right? Anyway, this mode is just as simple as the other ones. 2 clay pigeons are shot off at a time, and you just aim and shoot. There's 10 per round, and it gets slightly faster with each round. And honestly, this gets pretty boring as well. I guess I could say that about the whole game, really. The light gun is a cool novelty, but wears out quickly in a game this simple. So I'm not gonna give it a D, but I will put it at the bottom of C rank. Now that I'm finished with duck hunting, it's time for me to ride my dirt bike in the Excitebike, boy! Whoa, okay, let's not do that again, cause I was feeling the sudden urge to be racist. Anyway, this is the first racing game we're gonna cover. Once you choose from either Selection A or Selection B, you then get to choose to race on one of... Wait, only 5 tracks? Good dog, we're spoiled nowadays. And this isn't like some racing games you might think of, it's actually a side-scrolling racer. The racers occupy one of 4 lanes on the track, and you have to make sure that if you're in the same lane as someone else that you're not running into them from behind, because otherwise you'll eat dirt. But it is pretty funny when you do it to other racers. In order to spice up the races, there's a whole lot of hills and ramps, and you have to make sure you're properly angled when you ride off them, and especially when you land. Your angle when you jump off a ramp or a hill determines how high and how far you'll go, and your angle when you land determines whether or not you'll eat dirt. There's also a turbo button which will allow you to go zooming down the track, but if you do this for too long, your engine will yell at you that it's time to stop! And if you ignore its pleas for mercy, it'll overheat and break down.
I say right foot.
Okay, now that we understand the controls, it's time to race! Wait, where's everyone else? Why am I the only one racing here? Well, apparently Selection A is considered the solo run game. If you want to race against other racers, you'll need to select Selection B. But that doesn't really matter anyway, and let me explain why. All you're supposed to do in every race is get 3rd place or better. That's enough to let you move on to the next track. If you place 4th or worse, it's game over and you boot back to the title screen. But here's the kicker. Where you place isn't dependent on the other racers at all, just on your time. The game only tells you the time you have to beat to get 3rd place at least. And if you go over it, you might as well restart the console. And the time to beat gets tighter and tighter with each track in order up until the 5th one, and they get more complicated too. Oh yeah, there's only 5 tracks. What happens when you beat the final one, I wonder? Well, it makes you race on that same track again. And once you beat it again, it makes you do it again. Over and over until you either give up or game over. Well, I'm doing the former. Now, let's see what's up with this design option on the menu. Oh, it's a track editor. Neato. I mean, it is kind of limited. You're not going to make any masterpieces with this. But hey, the option is still nice, and I'm still going to make something stupid out of it. Behold, my custom track. I call it Hilly McHill Hills. And oh man, the other racers don't stand a chance on this. Doesn't mean I can either. Still one though. Oh, and look, you can save your track as well. Ain't that nice? I think I'll do that and play on it another time.
The next day.
Man, I really feel like playing on Hilly McHill Hills today. Let's do it. Wait, where's Hilly McHill Hills? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I see. I think I have to load it. Okay, here we go.
1 hour later.
Any minute now.
2 hours later.
I'm really hoping it's just taking a long time.
3 hours later.
So it turns out that the game didn't, in fact, save my track. See, in order for cartridge-based games to be able to save in the first place, it needs a battery. Excitebike doesn't have one. And you know what else this game doesn't have? Multiplayer! In a racing game! Wait, actually there is multiplayer for Excitebike. In arcades. Okay, so while this game does have a good foundation that can be built upon, it also only has 5 tracks to race on, a track creator where you can't save your creations, and no multiplayer, so it's going right to the bottom of C rank. I mean, what do you want me to say about it? It's golf! If you ever played a golf game before, or even played the actual sport of golf before, then you've played this game. You take this Mario lookalike, who may or may not actually be Mario, I don't know, and you try to get your ball into the hole. Do it 17 more times, and you're done. I will commend them for actually managing to program golf and wind physics into this game, and you do have plenty of options when it comes to getting the ball into the hole. But even then, you're better off skipping this one. And not because I was bad at it, okay? Like I said with baseball, you have plenty of modern options to mess around with nowadays, even ones that actually have Mario in them. So, just like baseball, it's getting a C rank. Besides, I'm more of a mini golf guy anyway. So the first game we're covering today is a light gun game. Been a hot minute since I played one of those. This is Gumshoe, and unfortunately it's not the Gumshoe you're probably thinking of. The plot is that Stevenson, the titular detective, has had his daughter kidnapped by the local mafia boss, King Dom, who requests that he bring him 5 Black Panther diamonds within 24 hours if he ever wants to see her again. And instead of cooperating with the police or something, Stevenson just goes, "Fuck it, time to go mining," and off he goes to find some diamonds. Now, considering the plot and the fact that it's a light gun game, would you guess that this is maybe an on-rail shooter or something? Cause it's not. It's an endless runner. Damn, Nintendo is really ahead of the curve on this one. So, another question for you. What do you think this game is like? Cause the first 2 things that came to my mind were Super Mario Run and Flappy Bird. Weird combination, I know, but stick with me for a sec. This is a side-scroller where Stevenson runs to the right automatically, like Super Mario Run, or whatever 2D endless runner you can think of, and the goal of each stage is to keep going until, at a random point, a black diamond will spawn, which I certainly wish a priceless diamond would randomly appear on my walks, and once you pick it up, you then just need to get to the end of the stage. And it's like Flappy Bird in 2 ways. The first is that you only need 1 button to control this, that being the trigger of your light gun, aim it at Stevenson and fire to make him jump. The second way is that, if you keep firing on Stevenson, he'll just keep rising higher and higher until he hits the ceiling. And that's literally all there is to the controls. Once again, Nintendo's ahead of the curve here, since most modern endless runners are controlled with just 1 finger, thumb. I'm not sure how you do that with a gun, but anyway, even though this is basically played with just 1 button, there is challenge to this one. Firstly, you only have a limited number of bullets, but you can get more by making Stevenson run or jump into balloons, which is all fine and dandy until they end up floating to the atmosphere and something pops them and it literally starts raining bullets! Also, why are they in balloons in the first place? I don't know, but anyway, if you keep hitting these, you won't have to worry about bullets. And the second bit of challenge is the absolute barrage of bullshit that comes at you from all sides with little chance to react! I mean, it's goddamn ridiculous how much garbage is thrown at you. Bottles, cards, boids, rocks, planes, fish, sharks, jellyfish, more boids, sea urchins, bombs, giant grasshoppers, bees, rhinos, goddamn Gamera, and these skull blocks strewn throughout the levels, all of which kill Stevenson in 1 hit, but he just jogs along without a care in the world. I mean, you can shoot down all of these, except for the death blocks, but firstly, most of these come at you way too fast, so you only have a split second to hit them, and it's even worse when it's your first time encountering an obstacle, and secondly, if you actually try to shoot everything, you'll likely have a seizure. Remember, separate games work by turning the screen black when you pull the trigger and flashing a white box for a split second, and the last level especially, it'll throw a lot of shit your way, which means constantly flashing imagery. Oh, but you want to see the worst of it? At the end of the final level, by the way there's only 4 levels of this, thank dog, Stevenson gets a machine gun, ho ho ho, and uses it against the only boss in this game, Zuli, some sort of sea cyclops thing, and Stevenson will fire automatically. All you have to do is make him jump so he hits its eyeball a few times, so you need to juggle him while also making sure to destroy his projectiles, which is very hard to do, and when you beat him, you get constant flashing lights across the whole screen as the monster dies. Jesus Christ. And what do you know? It had the last diamond. Time to fork these over to King Don, save Stevenson's daughter, and never play this game again. Seriously, I haven't played a lot of light gun games in my time, but I think I consider this the worst one by far. D rank. Now it's time for what some people call Nintendo's Trojan Horse. Everybody, meet R.O.B, aka the Robotic Operating Buddy. aka the robots from Smash Bros. But seriously, like I said before, Nintendo initially advertised the NES as a toy in the West, and Rob was a big part of it. He was the little robot that could help Nintendo make a shitload of money. And he wasn't alone, cause alongside him were 2 games, the first of which we'll cover being Gyromite, or Robot Gyro as the title screen suggests. That's kinda weird, and it's actually because that's the Japanese name of the game, which means that they even bothered localizing the ROM. You know how I said in my last video that Nintendo could have put F1 Race on an NES card and ship it over to America? Well, they actually did that here, with both R.O.B games. That's already inspiring confidence, but let's see how the actual game is. So you play as this professor guy, and he's stuck in these rooms filled with dynamite and dinosaurs. Good dog! And basically, this is a puzzle game where you have to navigate the stage, avoiding the dinosaurs and defusing the dynamite by walking up to it. Once you defuse them all, you move on to the next stage. Oh, but wait! There's a bunch of red and blue pipes in your way, and you're unable to jump, so how will you get past them? Well, with the help of R.O.B, of course. R.O.B? Okay, so I don't have R.O.B, but honestly, even if I did have him, which isn't cheap, he uses the same sensors as the NES Zapper, so I can't use him on my LCD TV, so I'd have to then buy CRT-TV, the 2 R.O.B games, and a bunch of other stuff that I talked about in my last video that I won't cover again here, but suffice to say, it would cost me a pretty penny. And we don't even have pennies here in Canada. And I know that I bought a $200 Canadian light gun for this series, but I knew I was gonna need it for more than 2 games. Yeah, these are the only 2 games officially released that use R.O.B, and I'm not spending this much money to play 2 games. Well, maybe in the future, when I have the funds, I'll come back to this with all the proper kits, so subscribe if you want to see that. Now, you don't necessarily need R.O.B to play this game, cause you see all this? This is just set up for him to press the A and B buttons on a second controller, but I still want to feel the essence of playing with R.O.B. So, you know what I did? First, I watched how R.O.B moves on YouTube and how you control him. Then, I grabbed 2 sticks of deodorant and placed them on my desk, and I placed a second controller to the side. I'd use one hand to control the professor and pretend to be R.O.B, and the other hand to press the buttons on the second controller. It's kinda clunky, but hey, it's the best I can do currently. So how R.O.B is supposed to work with this game is by detecting rapidly flashing green patterns on the screen, which you control by pressing start and then pressing on the D-pad or the face buttons in order to make R.O.B move his arms up, down, left, right, and then open and close them. R.O.B first has to take one of these spinning tops, called gyros, and place them in a spinner to spin the gyros so they stay standing. Then he places them on either the blue or red pad to move their respective pipes. Now you can move around the stage of R.O.B, using the pipes to platform. But be careful, cause you can be squashed by the pipes, but so can the dinos. Just lure them over with these radishes, didn't know the dinos were vegan, and nice. And that's all for the main mode of this game, but there are some other options on the main menu. You can calibrate R.O.B while giving yourself a seizure, you can test the controls for R.O.B, and you can play the second mode, where the professor character is sleepwalking along a set path, and you need to command R.O.B to move the pipes so you can get to the end of each stage. That's all there is to this game, but I gotta say, this probably has the most content of any game we've played thus far. I mean, in the main mode alone, there's 40 different levels. And I mean different, as in, they each have a unique layout. Even the second mode has some unique puzzles of its own. This is damn impressive compared to what we played before, where the previous games would only have like 5 unique levels at most. So I think this alone would, at least, give this game a B rank or something. But unfortunately, there's one big flaw that ruins the whole thing. And it's the whole shtick behind this game. R.O.B. He's so damn slow! Seriously, the novelty of something like this wears off pretty quickly. You might have noticed that this game gives you almost 1,000 seconds to complete each stage. Well, that's because they take forever when you use R.O.B, and that's from me pretending to use R.O.B. I eventually got impatient and went, screw it, I'll just stop doing this and play normally. And yeah, I managed to complete stages much faster, but it was still cumbersome and I got bored and quit before I reached stage 20. And the second mode is also slow, but that was obviously to compensate for how slow R.O.B is. The professor probably fell asleep playing this game. Now I do have to thank R.O.B for helping to revitalize the video game industry. I probably wouldn't be where I am now without him. But also, f**k him, this game's getting a D rank. Now it's time to shoot 'em up in Hogan's Alley, another light gun game. This is basically a shooting gallery game. Actually, it's based on an actual shooting range. In the first game mode, the game will give you 3 cardboard cutouts, with up to 2 of them being of gangsters, and you only have a few seconds to shoot them. And by seconds, I mean like 2 max. Oh, but make sure you don't shoot any civilians accidentally, and don't waste your shots. You only have as many as there are gangsters in each round. That's pretty much it. Every gangster you don't shoot and any civilians you do shoot will count as a miss, and if you get 10 of those, it's game over. The second game mode is apparently a recreation of the actual shooting range, and cutouts of gangsters will pop their heads out of windows and such. Again, 10 misses and it's game over. The third mode has you trick shooting cans that are flying through the air. Shooting them bounces them, and you have to get them into these holes in the side of the screen to try and rack up a high score. If a can hits the bottom of the screen, it counts as a miss. And, of course, 10 of those and it's game over. And that's literally all there is to Hogan's Alley. Except I had a problem with this game. The first game mode, everything worked fine. I didn't get very far, but everything was fine, up until I played the other game modes. Something was up with the Sinden light gun, because in these modes it was just bugging out and not tracking properly. In the third mode it fared a little better because I was actually able to get some points, but in the second mode, I only managed to hit 1 target. 1! Look, I'm trying to shoot them and it's just not working. I think it might be because of how much black is on screen in these modes, and light gun just wasn't agreeing with that. Like, Duck Hunt, very little black, works fine. The first mode of Hogan's Alley, little black, works fine. These other 2 modes, too much black, doesn't want to work. Maybe we should cancel the Sinden light gun on Twitter or something, because it's clearly being racist. Well, actually I found out later that it was a screw up on my part. See, the Sinden light gun has a camera inside its barrel that's actually looking for a border on your screen. That's how it does its calibration, and you can download borders for RetroArch that the light gun will recognize. And what do you know? Once you set up a border, everything works as intended. Look, the game works now. It wasn't because the gun was racist. I'm sorry for trying to cancel you, Sinden light gun. Can you ever forgive me? Now that I can judge the game itself without any outside problems, I can still say that the game is honestly kinda boring. But hey, at least it has more variety than Duck Hunt, but only a tiny bit, so it's going slightly above it in C tier. I see another game on the horizon. Get it? Icy? Because we're playing Ice Climber? So, can you guess what you do in this game? That's right, you climb mountains! Well, actually the goal of each stage is to climb only halfway up the mountain. You can climb all the way to the top, but it's not necessary to proceed to the next level. You climb by jumping up onto platforms, and you can make holes in the ceiling by hitting it from below. As you climb, the screen will scroll up to follow you, but that means that anything below the visible screen is a death pit, making you lose a life if you fall in. Once you're halfway up, you'll start the bonus game, where you only have 40 seconds to finish your ascent, collecting any vegetables along the way, and reach the pterodactyl at the top. You know, I should really stop questioning Nintendo's decisions. I mean, they're f***ing Japanese. Anyways, since this is just a bonus game, you won't lose a life if you fall into the pit. You'll just go to the next level. Along the way, you'll run into cloud platforms that'll scroll by, icicles that fall from the ceiling, ice physics, oh dog, these blocks that act like treadmills, on a mountain, and various creatures, including this Yeti-looking guy. He'll walk along, and if he finds any gaps in the ground, he'll run off to grab some ice to patch it up. This can be annoying when you're trying to climb up, but you can use these guys to cover up death pits, so there's a neat bit of strategy to them. Then there's these boids! Then they just fly around. To defeat these guys, you can either hit them with your hammer, or, with the boids, hit them from below. But then there's the polar bear guy, and he's able to make the screen shake so violently that it forces it to scroll before he just disappears. And he's super rare too, like I only saw him once throughout all 32 levels. Yeah, 32 unique levels! Nintendo's finally starting to fill out these cartridges, game packs with content. It's great. And I beat all of them. It took me 2 hours to do it. Once you beat the final level, it just loops back to the first one, but the game counts this and future levels and that run as new ones. But that just means you can see just how far you can go before a game over. I got to level 36 myself, but not all in one go, and oh boy, look at the time! It's time to get negative! This game is hard as balls, man. And not tennis balls, more like wrecking balls. Several. Now I really want to play with some tennis balls. So it mainly comes down to the controls once again, specifically the jumping. You have a vertical jump that would make LeBron James jealous, but barely any horizontal distance, making for some pitiful jump arcs. The momentum for your jumps is weird too, especially on the treadmill-like blocks. If this guy entered the long jump in the Olympics, he'd probably only go like 5 feet. And of course, you can't change the direction you're moving in midair. So if you end up making a bad jump and the arc leads into a pit or enemy, you might as well pray to Jesus and hope you'll go to heaven when you die. Oh, and there's the hit detection on platforms as well. If you aren't so much as halfway over the edge of one when you try to jump onto it, you just phase right through it. Because of all these things, I died a lot. Like, a lot, and it never really felt like my fault. But it had me thinking about how this was probably all intentional in order to represent the actual dangers of mountain climbing. The frigid cold, the slippery ice, the dangerous wildlife, and how at any moment you could slip up and fall to your doom. Plus, how you need patience, careful planning, and improvisation in order to avoid that fate and successfully reach the top, and realize that you're on top of the world. Doesn't make it fun though, and also I don't know how the level select factors into it. Yeah, thankfully you're able to choose any level you want, meaning if you game over, you aren't sent back to the first level. That's probably one of the only good things I can say about this game. Well, that, and it gave us the Ice Climbers and Smash Bros. I was relieved about being the final level, and that's just because I wasn't having a good time. So while I do realize that this is an important game in Nintendo's history, and I do feel bad for this, I'm gonna have to give this game a D rank. Apparently, at some point in the past, everybody was Kung Fu fighting, and I wasn't way aware of this, so it's time to rectify that by playing Kung Fu, which is actually a nice piece of history since it's considered the first beat-em-up. Or at least the original arcade version is, which wasn't made by Nintendo. But they did make and publish this port, so we're all good there. Anyway, the game sees you climbing a 5-story tower in order to reach the top, clearing out any goons along the way. And no, not that type of goon, and taking out the boss of each floor. Why are you doing this, you may ask? Well, after the second and fourth floor, it's revealed that your name is Thomas, with no correlation to trains, and you're trying to rescue your girlfriend Sylvia, who's been captured by the evil Mr. X. You mean the trenchcoat-clad, fedora-wearing guy from Resident Evil? That bastard! Time to go after him and save your girl! Each floor has you running down a really long hallway, with goons appearing ahead of and behind you, which are made up of standard guys that just want to give you a big smooch, knife-throwing guys that will keep their distance, and leprechauns that'll try to nibble your knees. Thankfully, you don't need weapons to deal with these guys, cause you are the weapon. You only need your fists and legs to kick all their asses. And by that, I mean you have a short punch and longer kick, both of which you can aim low as well as perform in the air. And unlike Nintendo's last attempt to make a fighting system in Urban Champion, where your attacks were sluggish and stiff, as you can see here, you attack lightning fast, and it just feels so much better. And most goons you can defeat in one hit, with the exception of the knife throwers. And when multiple of them are grouped together and you defeat 2 or 3 with one kick, oh!
So good.
It isn't mooks the whole time though, as in the first half of floors 2 and 4 it spices things up a little, with the former spawning pots with snakes in them, fire-breathing dragons, and I don't know, but you can just run past it, so it's not a big deal. And the latter floor spawning bees! Oh dog, the flashbacks. Oh, and there's also the boss of each floor, and they're all unique. First up is a guy with a katana, then a boomerang throwing guy, and then there's a boxer, I assume, that throws punches and low-hanging kicks. Then there's an old hag that does a bunch of stuff, like spawn fireballs and dragons and bees! And also she can disappear and pop her head off if you hit it. She was a bit of a bitch to deal with. And finally there's Mr. X himself. At least I assume it's him. He's not wearing a trench coat or fedora, and he's certainly not as menacing. Check it out. Seriously, how did Sylvia get kidnapped by him? Speaking of her, at the end, the two of you are finally reunited. But only for a few seconds before you loop back to the beginning again. Remember, arcade port. And it certainly is one, cause this game is pretty tough. It constantly sends a bunch of goons your way to smother you, there's a bunch of stuff to dodge, and the bosses hit hard. Although, like Mr. X, there are ways to cheese them, so as long as you manage to get to them with plenty of health and you figure out how to cheese them, you should be good. You just need to make sure you have good reflexes, cause if you lose all your lives, you have to go back to the start. But that didn't bother me too much, and I actually had a good time with this one. It's satisfying to mow down mooks and it has a good challenge. Sure, it's hard, but not impossible, and I'm kinda impressed with it on a technical level cause, I don't know if you noticed, but this game has synthesized voices. Even each of the bosses has their own evil laugh. This is the first NES game I've played to have them, and I just think that's neat. So with all that being said, this game's definitely getting a B. I had kinda low expectations going in, but surprisingly exceeded them. Time to put the pedal to the metal in Mach Rider, and this is where we see Nintendo going hardcore. The whole game is set in an apocalyptic future where the forces of evil have invaded, which I assume are aliens of some sort, and you, as the titular Mach Rider, are driving your motorbike between areas looking for survivors. All of this is explained between levels, and they always feel the need to remind you that you are Mach Rider. Like, I get it, you don't have to keep telling me. Well, now that the story is out of the way, let's get to the gameplay, starting with the first mode, the fighting course. In this mode, before you actually start driving, you get to choose between two different paths, which is pretty cool. It's always nice to have choices, and the goal is to try and reach the end of the path. You're always told in the top left of the screen how far you are from the end, so you better go! As you can see, here at the top are stuff like a gear shift, letting you know you can increase or decrease your speed, an energy and shot bar, I'll explain those in a bit, and, this is new, a rearview mirror, letting you know of any aliens that might be trying to ram your ass. Yeah, these guys that are on the road, apparently they're supposed to be aliens. I thought that they were some sort of Mad Max freaks or something, but I guess not. You'd think that they'd be flying around in their UFOs, but I guess this means I can ram them into obstacles on the side of the road. Boom! Nice! And it's not just the aliens you have to watch out for, because as you advance through the levels, not only will the track layouts get more complicated, but they'll throw all kinds of stuff at you on the road. Water and oil puddles, barrels, rocks, caltrops, and new types of aliens will also show up. And you'll need quick reactions to get around them, cause otherwise if you run right into an obstacle, you instantly burst into pieces! But then if you have any lives or energy remain, Mach Rider just forces himself back together and continues on his way. Damn, so badass! You're probably wondering why I'm talking about energy or lives? Well, it's because for some reason only the first track of this mode has the energy meter that depletes when you die, but then in every track after this it switches to lives. I have no idea why Nintendo did this. Thankfully you aren't completely defenseless. I already mentioned that you can force aliens to crash, but you're also packing heat. You got a gun that you can use to shoot any aliens in front of you as well as any obstacles, but you only have a limited amount of shots per life. And besides, it won't save you if an alien rams you from behind. Yeah, you thought I was joking about that? Well, I wasn't. That also instantly kills you. So you'll need to either get out of their way or shift into 4th gear to leave them in the dust. But then you'll end up going too fast and inevitably crash. Oh. Yeah, this game also has some old school difficulty, compounded by the fact that if you lose all your lives or energy, it's game over and you start at the beginning. And I thought that there was a continue cheat built into this game cause I looked it up, but it never seemed to work for me. So my guess is that you're probably lying to me, Dugon Do on GameFAQs, or you're probably referring to the other main modes, which I guess I'll quickly talk about. These are the endurance and solo courses, which pretty much play the same. You're just required to reach a certain distance on a track within a given time limit, and if you succeed, you move on to the next track, where you have to go further but it gives you more time. Rinse and repeat until you fail. Although, just like with the fighting course, each track will also put more obstacles on the road, and, in the endurance mode at least, you also have the aliens to deal with. The solo course, like I said, is the same, but without the aliens, though to make up for it, you have to drive a tad further on each track. See? I told you I'd be quick about it, but there is one more mode to check out, and it's the design mode, back from Excitebike but in a different form. This time you can create the layout of your track by placing down tiles, but it's honestly kinda clunky. Like, you have to hold the B button to select the tile, and then let go to move around the grid. It's weird. And also, you can't place down hazards, those are just placed randomly when you load the track up to drive. There's also some missing tiles, like a mirror one of this one here. But despite all that, I was still able to make something kinda stupid. Just a bunch of straightaways with few turns to form 2 canes and a weird looking wrench. I'm not giving a name to this one because I know the game won't save it, and I'm not gonna put down another loved one. And once you're done making your track, you can then play the 3 different modes on it. But if you decide to play the fighting mode, make sure you don't make your track 50 kilometers long like I did. And also be prepared to replay your track over and over and over again in all 3 modes. And that's Mach Rider. As you can tell, Nintendo made this game much more complicated than their last driving game, F1 Race. But it's still a good time. Just be prepared to learn how to play this game the hard way. So with that being said, I'm also giving this one a B rank. So now Mario finally gets his own game with Mario Bros. This time Mario had another career change. First he was a carpenter, then an animal tamer, and now a plumber. Geez, his resume is almost as diverse as that of Johnny Sins. But anyway, this time he's down in the sewers of New York to get rid of some pests, such as turtles, angry crabs, and man-sized gnats. Remind me to never go to New York. You do this not by jumping on them like you would in later Mario games, but by first jumping into them from underneath, and then you run into them to kick them to the curb. In each phase, as the game calls them, you defeat up to half a dozen enemies this way before moving on to the next phase, but it can be kinda hard to do this in a number of ways. Firstly, the controls. Not only do you have to commit to your jump arcs like in the previous games, but you basically have ice physics. Seriously, Mario slides all over the place like it's plumbers on ice. I know we're in the sewers, but the floors can't be that nasty. Also, apparently if you take too long, fireballs start spawning in, and when there's one last enemy in each phase, they suddenly remember they have a bag of cocaine in their back pocket and take a quick sniff. They also do this when they get back up after being knocked down, so be careful of that. You do have a special power-up right down here to help you though. The POW block. Basically a kind of screen nuke that knocks every enemy on their backs. However, you can only use this 3 times per game, so you better hope you don't use this accidentally. Yeah, shit. Finally, every few phases or so you get a bonus round where you have to try and collect 10 coins in a time limit. It's really only there to give you some extra points. And that's the main game. Once again, a pretty simple arcade game where it gets harder as it goes along and you're just trying to get a high score. Once again, on the main menu, there are 2 game modes for the single player, where Game B just starts the game off a little harder, and there's also a 2-player option for these modes which feature the series introduction of Loogie! My beloved. And basically you compete on the same screen to see who can rack up the highest score. But apparently you can push each other around, which could lead to some funny setups. I sure wish I had some friends to play this with though. And yeah, that's all there is to Mario Bros. It can be good multiplayer fun, but the slippery physics make it kinda hard to go back to, honestly. Also, I hope you like seeing the same layout over and over and over again, cause aside from some color changes, every phase looks exactly the same. No exaggerating. So because of all that, I think this game deserved the C rank. Not a very good start, Mario, but I know you'll do better next time. I mean, it's pinball. You kids do know what pinball is, right? Well, if you don't happen to know what it is, basically the only goal is to knock a metal ball around with these paddles in order to hit obstacles and get as many points as possible. If the ball gets behind the paddles though, you lose a ball, and you only have a few of those. But yeah, that's literally all there is to pinball. Damn, how am I gonna fill up time with this game? I guess I can detail the ways Nintendo tried to spice up this game, so let's do that. The table is split up into 2 sections, with each having their own paddles. If the ball gets behind the paddles in the first half, it'll drop down into the second half. Going into this lane will start a roulette wheel, and you have to hit this when it's above a slot to stop it. Getting matching numbers gives you points. I never got matching points. If you extinguish all these lights, these seals will start the party! Now to the bottom half. There are 5 face-down cards. If you manage to flip them all over by rolling over them, you get a huge bonus. There's some eggs here, and passing over them hatches them into chicks. Getting all 3 chicks to hatch will place these hard hats onto the side lanes to block the ball 1 time each. And finally, getting the ball into this hole takes you to a bonus game with Mario! And you're basically playing Breakout. I highly doubt kids these days know what that is, in order to match the colors on these bingo balls in Free Pauline. If the ball falls under Mario, it's spit back onto the main table. And yeah, that's Nintendo's Pinball. It's definitely more enjoyable than other games where it's just a game from real life, but like I said with those other games, you have better options elsewhere, so I'm gonna give this a C rank. Now we have a Popeye video game, and it's also time for a new segment I like to call Puggy Factoid. Donkey Kong was originally going to be a Popeye game, but Nintendo didn't have the license to do this at the time, so instead they just went and created the most iconic video game characters known to man. Damn, imagine another universe where Nintendo never made Mario. Crazy. Also, Google Docs is recommending that I change that last part to imagine another universe where Nintendo never made Mario crazy, which is pretty funny to me. Maybe MatPat was onto something. Well, eventually they got to make a Popeye game. And do you remember that shitty Popeye game that was on the Switch eShop a few years ago? Yeah, apparently this is the basis for it, so my hopes are high going in. Basically, in each of the 3 levels, I'm starting to notice a pattern, all of oil will have something for Popeye to collect, with you advancing to the next level once you have enough. Level 1 has hearts, level 2, music notes, and level 3, letters that spell out help to build a ladder, cause you got kidnapped by a boy! There are, well, levels to each level, and you traverse these levels by climbing stairs and ladders. But of course it can't be too easy, cause a big boy wants all his heart and will attempt to stop Popeye. Too bad he's a bit of a dunce. I mean, he does a lot. He'll try and hit you from below, jump down on you, grab you with his grabby hands and throw balls at you, but he doesn't exactly beeline after you, so he's not much of a threat. On level 3 though, the Boyd will swoop down after you, so it does add a bit of a challenge. Thankfully, you do have a power-up, Popeye's trusty spinach. It will temporarily turn him into the Amazing Hulk and send Big Boy running.
Yeah, get back here, you bastard. You're gonna get what's coming to you. I can't do that.
However, it does stop oil from throwing stuff, so it just ends up stopping the flow of the game. Anyway, once you finish level 3, Popeye and Olaf are reunited, the game plays a nice little tune. Okay, never mind. And repeat after me now. You loop back to the beginning again, but this time it's incrementally harder. And what's added to make this harder? Oh, only a damn witch that drops moving skulls that want to eat you! Popeye be crazy, yo. Finally, I probably shouldn't need to explain what the other game modes do. I think you get the idea. Although I am disappointed that the multiplayer modes go back to taking turns, which is sad, because I would have liked the opportunity to make the other players run into Big Boy, or the Boyd! But other than that, I really liked Popeye. In fact, I'd say it's the best game Nintendo released in 1983. I liked trying to maneuver around the enemies and collect stuff before I hit the ocean. So because of that, I think I'm going to give it the A rank. Oh, but I forgot to mention that the witch in Loop 2 Level 2 gets some kind of weird skin condition that she should seriously get checked out. Maybe she could see a witch doctor? Okay, time to wind down with a nice relaxing game of pro wrestling. So, let's see what fighters we have to work with. Fighter Hayabusa from Japan. Okay, nice. Starman from Mexico? Why the question mark? I'm not gonna say that because I feel like I'll be cancelled if I do. Giant Panther from the US. Okay, nothing wrong here. Seaman, what the fuck? And King Slender. Since when did Slender Man become royalty? Alright, first up I'm gonna play as Starman, and while I attempt to pummel this guy, I'll explain some stuff. You, of course, only have 2 buttons to work with. A does a kick, and B does a quick jab. You use these moves, as well as others that you use with various button combinations and timings, which I found in the manual, and there's quite a few, to knock down your opponent. Once they're knocked down, you can press B to pick them back up, or A to pin them, after which you hope they don't get up before the ref counts to 3. Eventually, I won a match, and this is where I learned that this is the origin of the winner is you meme! Yes, the one from the mid-2000s, in a game officially developed and published by Nintendo! What? Whew. Well, anyway, my next match was against Mr. Ethnic Stereotype, and this match went horribly. No matter how many times I kicked this guy to the ground, and no matter how many times I pinned him, he wouldn't stay down. The ref would barely get to say 2, and he'd get right back up. Then he'd throw me outside the ring, because you can do that in this game, and while I did manage to get a cool move in on him, somehow, I lost because I was outside the ring for too long. That's fine. I was allowed to do one more match, this time against Giant Panther, and it kinda went the same way. I'd kick him, I'd pin him, he'd get up after just 1 second. And he was extra annoying because he'd get right up in my face and deck me constantly, enough that eventually one punch would knock me down. Jeez. And guess what? I lost and got another game over. At this point I was getting pretty frustrated and was ready to give this game a low ranking. But then, I had an epiphany. At the start of every match, whenever the computer knocked me down, they'd always pick me back up, but a few minutes later, they'd then always pin me, which got me wondering if this was tied to some sort of stamina or health system or something, and that line of thinking led me to do an experiment. I ended up going Mr. Ethnic Stereotype for this one, and I did just one line of actions. Kick him down, pick him up. Kick him down, pick him up. Over and over and over and over. And after a few of those, I kick him down and pin him. And sure enough, it took slightly longer for them to get up, but it was enough to prove my hypothesis was going somewhere. So I kept repeating the process until eventually it worked! I won! So I did the same strategy on my next opponent, and I won that match. Then I did it on the next opponent. And the next, until I was face to face with the champion, King Slender, where I did the exact same thing and won the championship title! I did it! I'm the ultimate cheese champion! And once I got the title, I was tasked with beating all the opponents over and over again in order to defend my title. But nobody could stand against me and my soon-to-be patented kicker-upper technique. So I kept winning over and over and over and over again until I turned the game off because I was getting bored of winning, which happened after 18 matches. But unfortunately, it wasn't a perfect streak. I technically didn't win one of my matches, and it's all because of Starman, this Patrick Star dressed as Bongo Boy looking ass. I swear, in these later matches, he had the stamina of an Olympian dog. My soon-to-be patented kicker-upper technique barely phased him. No matter how many times I did, he seemingly get up without a scratch. And we ended up running out of time and ending in a draw. But even though I didn't technically lose, I still lost my championship title. Though that didn't last for very long because the game immediately let me rematch him. I actually managed to wear him down, I beat him, and I got my title back. Soon to be patented kicker-upper technique for the win! Now I guess I should end this segment already. Can't believe I had this much to say about a wrestling game, but I actually had a pretty decent time with it. Granted, the controls are a little stiff, the hit detection isn't all that good, and like all the other early Nintendo sports games, there isn't much content. I'd still say you're better off playing the latest WWE game, assuming it isn't a broken mess, but I also think this game at least deserves a high C rank. It's probably the best of these early sports games thus far. Insert game-related intro here, Slalom! Slalom?
Slalom.
Slalom. Okay, now we have another interesting developer here, cause this is the first game published by Nintendo to be made by Rare. Yes, Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, grabbed by the Google that Rare, and this is also their first game under this name, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this fares. Now, if, like me, you had no idea what slalom meant up until now, Merriam-Webster describes it as a timed race out on skis or in an automobile or kayak over a winding or zigzag course past a series of flags or markers. So basically, this is a skiing racing game. Choose from one of 3 mountains that represent different difficulties, and you'll be given, in order, 8 routes to race down. And with each one, you have a limited amount of time to get to the end, so you better go! Now the controls are simple. Left and right are obvious, down slows you down, up speeds you up while also giving a front row seat to that ass, and both A and B make you jump. You go so high, in fact, that I'm pretty sure you'll be suspended under suspicion of using steroids. Now you actually accelerate automatically, cause, you know, you're going down a mountain, but holding up will make you go faster, at the cost of turn control becoming super awkward to use, and will most likely make you run into any of the obstacles in your way. These include flags that are basically the whole point of slalom. You have to pass them on the side the flag is facing, failing to do that slows you down a tad, and there's clumps of snow, which if you hit them head on, leads to you doing a sick jump, but you can't control yourself in midair, so be mindful of that. Then there's also other skiers that'll get in your way, trees, snowmen, and children sledding. Why is all this here? I thought these things would be removed from the course, or at the very least they would have designed the courses around these. Well anyway, if you hit just about anything other than the snow piles, you'll instantly go whoop! God damn it, it doesn't even fit! And oh, here's one of my first problems with this game. Spoiler alert, this game frustrates me. This mechanic feels pretty inconsistent to me. Sometimes when I get knocked around, I land and I just keep going. I lose a bit of speed, but that's the worst it gets. But sometimes when it happens, I just stop right in my tracks for a second and have to get all my speed back. I thought it might be tied to how fast you're going, like if you're fast enough you'll land on your feet just fine, but sometimes I'll hit something really fast and still get stopped, so maybe it's also tied to what you hit? I don't know. And also, GameFAQs lied to me again. Holding down when I go flying doesn't save me. Thanks, Peg Boy. Now, this wouldn't be too much of an issue if I wasn't constantly running into things, but it's not like this game makes it easy. Firstly, the other skiers. They move from side to side, sure, but if you hit them from any side, you go flying, so it's not super fair. Actually, only sometimes you go flying, so yeah, def unfair. And for any static obstacles, look how fast they come at you at top speed. They come out of nowhere. You're without a doubt gonna run into them on first playthrough, which means that you'll be hearing a lot. Now, I am aware this is basically a limitation of the console. If this was an actual 3D game, this wouldn't be as much of a problem because obstacles will be rendered much further out, giving you plenty of time to react. And also, I didn't give games like F1 Race and Mach Rider as much shit about this. But for context, F1 Race is a simpler racer, and you aren't zooming past anything really. And Mach Rider is pretty fast, and there's things on the road to avoid, but you also have a gun to shoot those obstacles out of the way. Here, you only really have to jump as a defense, which you can't control in midair air, so you'll probably land right in front of something else. And you can't jump over trees, so it's not much help. And these definitely add to difficulty because you're on a timer. Now in the easier courses, you do have some wiggle room when it comes to time. They also have less obstacles to f you over, so there's that. But relatively quickly, the times get tighter and tighter, and this game does that thing again where you just slow to a stop when you run out of time. But if you still cross the finish line, you'll qualify for the next course. Later on, I was basically just doing this to advance. That's how tight it was getting. Like, let me put it this way. The first mountain progresses from easy courses to intermediate ones, the second mountain progresses from intermediate to hard, and the third mountain starts so hard that I'd probably need hours worth of attempts to get past the first course. Yes, I'm serious. And I didn't feel like bothering to do that. I'd hate to see how the last course overall is. And just to make it sting all the more, if you lose on any course, no second chances, game over, start the mountain over. Now, Rad Racer also does this, but you have to start the whole game over. But there's a continue cheat so you can keep going from where you left off. Not here though, f***er! Now to be fair, it's not like you're starting all 24 courses over. You can choose to start on any mountain, but still, I think I've seen everything this game has to offer, so I'm gonna stop. And while this game frustrated me, I don't think it's atrocious or anything, but I'm just gonna move on and give this a C rank. Dog, it's gonna be a while before we get to the good rare stuff, isn't it?
Wow, would you look at that? It's yet another early Nintendo sports game, this time being soccer, or football if you want to get European about this. Now, is the game actually pretty ace, or a load of tosh? Well, let's play and find out. To start, you get to choose from one of 7 teams: USA, Gibber, Bra, Berg, Bra, Jippin, and Esp, as well as the skill level of the computer if you're playing single player, and the length of each half of the game. Well, to start off, let's give the Jippin lads a shot, and it's time to play. And first off, I was gobsmacked by how this game controls. When you don't have the ball, you stiffly trundle about, and when you have the ball, it's weird because you can't turn until you reach the ball and kick it in the direction you want. And in order to even steal the ball, there isn't any button to do it. You just run up to the bloke that has it and you just take it. And once you have the ball, you can pass it to a march player with B, or give it a good kick with A. And that's literally it. Honestly, I shouldn't have expected much since this game's on a console with only 2 buttons. Anyway, this first game went by in a jiffy, mainly because I was playing on the 15-minute half and on skill level 1, so of course I beat the computer's asses. And while I was pretty chuffed about it, I also craved a bit more of a challenge. So in the next game, I played as Team Ferg and cranked the skill level up to 5, and blimey, it was tough. For comparison, on level 1, the opponent barely stole my ball and the goalkeeper was just doing paces up and down the net. Here, they constantly steal the ball, and the goalie was much more competent. So even though I was able to defend my goal, I unfortunately let one ball through and was unable to get any goals myself. But it's fine. For my last game, I went with Team Gibber and played on level 3, and this was much more of a fair challenge, which I of course overcame because I'm just such a badass. So, now that I'm done with this game, it's time to answer the question I laid out at the beginning. Is the game ace or tosh? I mean, it works, but it's pretty stiff and awkward, and of course, there's not much to do in this game. I'm pretty sure the FIFA games on Switch have more content. Yes, those ones. So I think I'm just gonna give this one a very low C rank. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go down to the pub and have a pint with my mom while watching football on the telly. Cheerio! Okay, now it's time for the second R.O.B game of 2. Stack Up, or Robot Block. Seriously, Nintendo, the F1 racing was a bit. And this one uses R.O.B in a different way from Gyromite. This time he has 5 trays and 5 circular blocks that you can pick up individually or in groups and move them between trays. Now you're probably wondering how I simulate this without R.O.B. Hey guys, Eddie and Marvin here. So in the next sentence I talk about how I use containers on a sheet of paper to pretend to be R.O.B and Stack Up. However, I recently moved house and don't have those items anymore, so instead of doing a live action demonstration, I'm just going to use objects I found on Google Images and move them around in Canva or something. This probably wouldn't have been a problem if I had just recorded the required footage beforehand, but I can't use the excuse that I'm new to this whole YouTube thing because I'm not. I used to make videos on here as a cringy preteen, and I'm super thankful to myself that I used copyright tracks in those videos and YouTube took that channel down so none of you can find it. Well, I replaced the blocks with these small food containers. I didn't have a white one, so I substituted it for purple, and I drew 5 trays on a white piece of paper, and, just like last time, I pretended to be R.O.B and slowly moved the blocks around. And now that's out of the way, let's see how I stack up in this game.
Oh, brother,
So the first two modes are the same as in Gyromite. Test lets you calibrate R.O.B as well as give you a seizure, and Direct lets you practice controlling R.O.B, and this is where you'll see how Stack Up plays. You, as the professor once again, hop around on a bunch of buttons, with blank ones that do nothing, and buttons that move R.O.B's arms as well as open and close them. And as you can see on top, the game gives you instructions to follow. It tells you where the blocks should first be placed and in what order, then tells you where to move certain blocks. Unlike Gyromite, where R.O.B only has 2 arm positions in the Z-axis, here he has 6, allowing you to have fine control of which blocks to carry, as well as how many. Pretty neat if you ask me. Now it's time for the first real piece of meat and potatoes of this game, the memory mode. Here you have a straight string of blank buttons that you're able to assign commands to. Just select which one of A and B and hop onto it to assign it. Once you're done, press start to set the speed at which the commands play, then press start again to just sit back as the magic happens. It's a neat little puzzle mode where you have to think ahead in order to get the result the game wants. Next up is the bingo mode, which starts by showing you where the blocks should go, except it doesn't matter what order they go in this time, before it hides it and shows you a bunch of buttons laid out in, you guessed it, a bingo grid. Each row and columns, minus the middle ones for both, have commands assigned to them, and you have to press all the buttons in a row or column to execute that command for R.O.B. But it won't be easy though, because there's 2 different pains in the ass to deal with. First, it's this spike ball looking guy that'll block up a button for a few seconds before moving to another one, get in the way of you trying to make a line. And don't hop onto it or else the professor will be sent to the void of nothingness. At least I believe he's an atheist and doesn't believe in heaven, so into the shadow realm you go. But only for like 2 seconds because needed to finish this puzzle. Thanks! But then the other eyesore is this spring motherfucker, who will hop in a line pressing buttons and depressing any you pressed. This can definitely be annoying if you're not paying attention, because he can input random commands that'll not only slow you down, but probably also knock over blocks. Ah, screw you, you bitch! I hope you get tangled up and never spring properly ever again! Wait, why am I getting mad about this guy making R.O.B screw up? I don't even have R.O.B! But then how am I able to proceed through levels without him? You're probably wondering what magical way R.O.B communicates with the NES to get this whole thing to work? Well, he doesn't. At all. When playing this game, he's not hooked up to the NES in any way, so he's not controlling anything, and he has no way of knowing if you even got the puzzle correct. So how, again, do you get past a level? You just press start. That's it. Well, actually in bingo, you press A or B and then press start. But either way, the game doesn't know if you did the puzzle correctly or not, it's just expecting you to be truthful about it. But if I can start a level and just instantly finish it and get all the points, then what's the point? Well, remember what I said all the way at the beginning of the video? The NES, with R.O.B, was originally marketed as a toy, something for kids to whittle away the minutes or even hours, all while having fun. And fun isn't pointless. It allows us to engage our minds, connect us with others, and let us temporarily forget about the stresses of life, which makes it an essential part of the human experience. But the problem is this game isn't fun, and that makes it pointless, so into D rank you go! I mean, what is there to say? God damn it, we did this joke already! But I'm being serious when I say that, cause everyone knows about the original Super Mario Bros. It's the video game, starring the video game character.
Hello!
It helped bring the games industry back from the crash of '83, and it's the 9th best-selling game of all time. It's literally the classic of classics. So while I won't go into detail about some things you probably already know, like the characters, enemies, and the gameplay loop, I will talk about some of the innovations it brought to the platformer genre. Like, for one, you can influence your jump in mid-air. Holy f***ing Luya! Oh, and let's not forget that it's no longer a set height either. Just tap the button for a short hop and hold it for a bigger jump. And let's also not forget that you now have a run button that allows you to jump farther and higher. Both of these things really give you a leg up, cause you use your legs to run and jump! Oh, and the levels you traverse through? 3 or 4 weren't enough, so there's 32 in this game, and they're all unique, and they're filled with enemies and secrets to discover, like extra lives or the war rooms that allow you to skip entire worlds. And finally, there's the fact that this game has an actual ending. Not, oh, you beat the final level you created? Well, we're taking you back to the start, bitch! Like, you get to the final level, set a giant turtle on fire, save the girl it kidnapped, which hopefully won't be a recurrent event, and you get some text before it boots you to the title screen. It's not much, but something. Now I'm sure none of this sounds like a big deal to you guys, but take it from me. So far I've played through 3 years of Nintendo's early games leading up to this, and I feel like it's given me a new perspective on this game in particular.
how Nintendo took all their experience in game development and crammed what was, at the time, a big game into a 40 kilobyte ROM. And they knew this game was a big deal. Like I said earlier, the NES's initial limited release in 85 came with R.O.B in the deluxe set, but with the full release in 86, they axed that bundle and created a new one with, as you probably could have guessed, Super Mario Bros. This game was a great early showcase of the next generation of gaming, and the industry might not have been the same without it. Well, now that I've sucked this game's green pipe for roughly a minute and a half, let's start bitching! The jumping controls, for one, while pushing the genre forward, still weren't quite up to snuff. You'll probably die a whole lot since it's stiffer than the flagpole at the end of levels. Seriously, I probably never had as much anxiety while playing a game as I did when I had to platform through levels with a bunch of pits. But that's not the only thing that'll get ya. This game isn't immune from that old school difficulty. Levels will get progressively harder, both in their layouts and with their enemy placements, as well as giving you fewer power-ups. It was especially bad in the final world, where I could only find 2 power-up blocks and I had to be careful not to lose them until the end to get past all the hammer bros. These things were the bane of my existence. Thank dog there's a continue cheat in this game, or I probably wouldn't have finished this game. Oh, and speaking of the final world, it contains one of the water sections in this game. I'm pretty sure this is one of the earliest examples of them being in games, and Nintendo's already setting the precedent of them being the absolute worst. Just a whole lot of clunk, and the last one has fire bars that said clunky controls kept making me screw up on. Tony was right. Water into fire. Why? But with all that being said, I mean, it's fucking Super Mario Bros. The game is still pretty fun and replayable after all this time, and it's the iconic video game, so without that in mind, I'd probably give this a B. But with that in consideration, for me at least, it's getting a very high A rank. It's kinda like your grandma. It may not have aged well, but you still love it all the same. Alright, now it's time to play some
Tennis.
and I think you can guess what I'm about to say, so say it with me folks, it's just tennis! Just plain old
Tennis.
with no extra bells and whistles. If you're expecting Mario
Tennis.
out of this, then you're looking in the wrong place. And good dog is this game long and slow. I don't know anything about
Tennis.
really, but I'm pretty sure what happens is that there's 3 sets, and one side of the court has to win 9 rounds before they can win the set and you move on to the next one. And the fact that it probably would have taken me like 25 minutes to finish a single set, I wasn't gonna play this for almost an hour and a half. I probably would have literally died of boredom. Okay, you know what? Maybe it was because I was playing on the easiest difficulty. Maybe if I play on the highest one, I'll get a real challenge. Whoa, 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 whoa! Holy shit! Okay, from my observations, it seems like the different difficulties change how fast the ball flies, and I think on the highest one it goes way too fast. Like, how the hell am I supposed to react to that? Then again, I suppose that's how fast it goes in real life, and that just goes to show that, both in the real world and the virtual one, I'm just terrible at sports in general. But I don't know, man, I just wasn't having fun with
Tennis.
In the words of Reggie, my body is ready. Fisame. If it's not fun, fuck it, give it a D. And you know what, Mr. Reggie? You're right. I'm gonna do just that. Now go back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on your Nintendo 3DS. Thank you very much. Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? In case you guys don't know, people love the doggone Urban Champion as one of the worst games on the NES. And now I have the pleasure of playing it. Woo! So here's the rundown. This is a fighting game, one of the first of its kind actually. You're a punk fighting against either another human punk or a computer punk, and your entire goal is to punch the other punk until you punch him off the pavement 3 times. Once you do that, you win, and then move on to finding an identical looking punk, with which you repeat the process. You have a light and heavy attack which can be aimed high or low, but not too low. That's just disrespectful. The light attack only pushes your opponent back slightly, but the heavy attack will really knock him back. The only problem is that it's slower than the light attack, but not when the computer does it. Their heavy attacks come just as fast as their light ones. It's not fair. And of course, there are other things you must worry about, like the policeman. Every once in a while, they'll interrupt your fight by just driving by, and you have to wait them out. And if the timer runs out, they'll come and take you away, but not your opponent. They'll just leave him to celebrate. Maybe he's actually the son of the policeman. There's also stamina that you have to deal with, which is your health. Throwing punches, getting punched, having a flower pot fall on your head, screw you! All of that will drain it. And if you run out of stamina, you can't throw any more heavy attacks, so you basically just lost a life. Oh yeah, you have lives as well, and only 3 of them. You can't get any more. And you're just supposed to rely on those 3 lives until the end. Yeah, apparently there is an end to this. But only after you defeat 45 opponents without a game over. That's 135 rounds of the most simplistic fighting game that feels stiffer than a tree. It's more like 2 trees. And just like that, I can now see why people dog on this game. Now personally, I don't think it's the absolute worst game I've played thus far. I think Donkey Kong 3 is worse because it frustrated me. But don't get me wrong, it's still bad, so it's getting a D rank. Wow, another early Nintendo sports game. What a way to end the video. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this is the worst sports game I've ever played and it's getting the D rank. But why is that, you may be asking? Well, it comes down to 3 things. Firstly, the dog-awful controls. You press the A button to serve or receive and hold B to spike, all while holding the direction on the D-pad to change the type of serve, receive, or spike you do. That all sounds good on paper, but most of the time it doesn't even work. I'll literally try and go for a spike just for the player to do absolutely nothing, and when they actually do a spike, it's either too early or too late. Secondly, the depth perception. If there's any to begin with, there's literally tons of moments where I misjudged where the ball was gonna be, and the shadow of the ball doesn't help at all. These 2 things combined meant I wasn't able to score a single point. Seriously, not one! That hasn't happened in any of the other sports games. Oh, and thirdly, if the first 2 things don't get to you, the sound design certainly will. Like, I was only able to handle a game and a half until I rage quit, and I only record for 18 minutes. But probably 2 of those were from me trying to read the manual because I couldn't understand what I was doing. The only 2 things I like about this game is, firstly, why does it look like the players are constantly twerking? And what the hell are they doing to that ball? And also, the designs on the Japanese cover and inside the aforementioned manual are pretty cute. But those 2 things can't fit this terrible game. Like I said before, it's straight up getting a D rank. Hopefully the team that made this eventually made something better. Let's take a look. Wait, they co-developed Donkey Kong 94?! Finally, the final game, Wild Gunman. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I forgot about this game until almost last minute. I have no idea why. I mean, this was the game that was originally launched with the Zapper in Japan, and it's the main reason why their version of it looks the way it does. Well, I'm glad I didn't forget about it, cause honestly, it's the best light gun game Nintendo's published thus far. The first 2 modes are all about the quick draw. 1 or 2 bandits will walk onto the screen, and when they say, you just gotta shoot them before they shoot you. And make sure you're actually quick about it, cause your window is pretty tight, and it gets tighter as you go along. Oh, get your mind out of there. Thankfully, you don't have to be super accurate when you fire, cause the white box will actually fill up the whole screen, or half the screen when you're up against 2 bandits. As long as you're pointing the zapper at the screen when you pull the trigger, you're all good. That does mean you can just point your zapper at the screen the whole time, and as long as you're quick enough, you'll win almost every time. I mean, look how far I made it that way, and how fast I am. Damn! But still, that's no fun. It's better if you commit to it by pretending to pull out a holstered gun. Actually, the original Japanese game came with a plastic holster belt, which is pretty badass. And yeah, that's all there really is to this mode. You only have 3 lives, so when you run out, back to the title screen you go. And since we're here, let's check out the final game mode, which is a shooting gallery of a saloon. And bandits will pop out of the door and windows, and, of course, you have to shoot them quickly. Unlike the other modes, you actually have to be accurate here. You do have more bullets than there are bandits, way more than you could fit in a revolver, so you can afford to miss once or twice, but you should really try to be accurate. And that's all there is to Wild Gunman. And even though there isn't too much to this one like Duck Hunt or Hogan's Alley, I'd still say it's pretty good. Certainly not bad or ugly. I mean, seeing just how fast you can quickfire is pretty fun, so I'm gonna give it a B rank. So, for our last game, Mario goes back to the real world and becomes a demolition worker and wrecking crew. And geez, of all these jobs, you think he's showing off or something. Oh, I'm a master of all the trades, I'm master of all. Like, we get it, dude, you don't need to damage my self-esteem further. Oh, putting that aside, this is a puzzle game themed around, if you couldn't guess, demolition. Mario carries around a hammer, and your job is to use it to destroy specific blocks in each stage, which include different types of walls, pillars that'll drop anything they're holding, and white ladders, along with bombs that'll destroy any breakable objects it's connected to, but will drop you down to the bottom of the stage. and you'll get to these things by climbing ladders and looping around the stage. You can't jump though, cause apparently the hammer's too heavy, and that's just stupid. You're telling me the same fat man that could spin a giant turtle and throw it across an arena can't jump while holding a measly hammer? I guess he got some gains in the 11 years between games. But anyway, because he can't jump, the puzzle element of this game comes down to breaking objects in a specific order. Breaking ladders too early, for instance, will prevent you from reaching other objects, and you can also accidentally drop unbreakable barrels down that'll block off a path to objects. Not only that, but there's also some enemies to deal with, like walking wrenches. They'll always try to get to you, and can climb ladders to do so, but they only turn around on ladders, so you can try and manipulate them to get around them. Then there's walking eggplants. They'll ignore you and just walk straight ahead, only turn around when they hit a dead end. And finally, there's Spike. Yeah, the dickhead from the Mario movie? This is where he's from, and he's also a dickhead here. The entire purpose of him is to hide behind objects and destroy them when you come close, which will knock you down to the bottom. And it's really annoying when he drops you down to a spot that'll softlock you, forcing you to restart the game. Thankfully, you're able to select any level you want right from the get-go, meaning you don't have to start from the beginning. Thank dog for that. That would have made it impossible to complete, cause 1, this game is hard, and it ramps up pretty quickly. I mean, I got stuck on level 18 for dog's sake. And 2, there's a shit ton of levels to this game. Go on, take a guess as to how many levels are in this. Maybe 32 like Super Mario Bros. And Ice Climber? Or maybe 40 like Gyromite? Well, if you guessed anything like that, you're wrong. There's 100 different levels to this game. 100. That's ridiculous for a game from 1985. But if you do go ahead and beat all 100 levels in this game, and for some reason you're craving more destruction, firstly, just go to a rage room or something. Then come back and make your own levels. Yeah, like Excitebike and Mach Rider, this game lets you create your own puzzle levels. Up to 4 at a time, in fact, allowing you to make the stupid building of your dreams. Welcome to Ladder Central, where you got ladders for all your laddering needs. Excuse me, sir, would you be interested in a ladder by chance? Wait, what are you doing with that hammer? No, don't go near the palm! No! What have you done? I spent my life savings on this business! What do you have to say for yourself?
Hey, I'm hungry. Have you got any food?
No, I can barely afford water, you Italian piece of sh**! So, now that's settled, Wrecking Crew verdict. I mean, it's a decent puzzle game, and you'll get a bunch of playtime out of it, but it's also hard as balls, so I think it's just gonna get the C rank.